I'm talking today about my new book, Crafting Identities, Artisan Culture in London, which will be published in a week's time on the 14th of December. Sadly, then I don't have a physical copy of the book yet to hold up on the screen, so we have to just use our imaginations. And I chose as my favourite page that featuring two colour plates, which show 17th century building plans of Armourers Hall and Goldsmiths Hall, two sites of exceptional importance to artisanal and mercantile communities in early modern London. And I picked this as my favourite page because one of the central arguments of my book is, yes, please do look at the PDF of pictures, thank you. One of the central arguments of my book is that the experience of negotiating institutional artisanal spaces was crucial to the social, intellectual and political status of London's artisans. So we know, of course, that craftsmen were essential in physically constructing, furnishing, designing the built environment of London. But the artisan status was in turn very much shaped by his embodied experience of access, movement and placement within these architectures. So ideas about distinctions between gender, generation, seniority, even between native and so-called alien craftsmen were experienced, performed and reinforced through access to or exclusion from prestigious routes and chambers and access to precious things. I picked this page as well to represent the book because I've purposely used as wide a range of archival sources as possible. So of course, manuscript and printed sources, but I've tried to gather together as much surviving visual and material culture as possible. And I suggest in my book that this is especially important for a meaningful analysis of skilled craft practitioners who primarily used visual and material media they communicated through visual and material media rather than the written word. And so ultimately in this book, my aim has been really to take the idea of a distinctive artisanal culture seriously, because all too often in the existing English scholarship on urban society and culture, there's a bit of a tendency to treat early modern craftsmen, except for a few exceptions, with a good deal of social and intellectual condescension, ultimately reproducing what was said about them by socially elite superiors, who were often very uneasy about the value or the seemliness of bodily labour. But here in this book, I very much try to uncover the significance and value of workshop expertise to early modern citizens, those with significant political authority. And the assertion of craft knowledge and technical ability, I say, could act as a form of cultural capital, a way of actually furthering your status within urban society. And the final little link I wanted to make with this page is that one of the key findings of my research for this book has been the centrality of artisanal guilds and certainly merchant guilds as prominent patrons of architecture, of the built fabric of London. Now, of course, historians have always known about the existence of livery halls from the late medieval period. They still exist in their modern incarnations. They are headquarters of these organisations. But my book uncovers a really important development which hadn't been looked at before, and that is the citywide movement to enlarge, rebuild, beautify these buildings from the mid-16th century to the start of the English Civil Wars. And these were really expensive, really prominent, time-consuming projects. And London's leading artisans played really important roles as commissioners, advisors, and practitioners. And I show that within these buildings, where court meetings were held, civic dinners hosted, apprentices sworn, these buildings became increasingly significant to the social, political and economic lives of craft guilds. But crucially, I situate craft buildings, these livery halls, as sites of epistemological culture within the metropolis. Within these spaces, artisans engaged with knowledge culture in a variety of different ways. So they were often active testing sites where there was semi-public testing of substances, materials and objects. Halls were also used as ceremonial workshops where merchants, foreign dignitaries could come and see the production of particular goods and products. and more broadly, the gifting of tools and objects for exhibition and ceremony really work to elevate the cultural significance of the craft mystery. So I'm talking about like the display on objects and within architecture itself of craft marks, hallmarks, tools, instruments, even visual representations of working bodies. So livery halls weren't just sites of political authority or economic regulation, though this was important. I'm suggesting that they're also spaces of epistemological exchange within London. And that's my very brief summary of the book, rooted in my favourite page. Thank you.